Hello, everyone, and welcome into crushthestreet.com. A brand new guest on the line with me today. We're going to be discussing cannabis, hemp, and just the industry. I mean, we're hitting the ground running here. It's January 2019. The markets are in flux. Gold's moving higher. Cryptocurrencies seem to be on the upwards trends. And we're just at a tipping point now with mass legalization when it comes to cannabis. So to discuss that with me today, we have Kristin Nichols, is the editor of Hemp Industry Daily, where she leads coverage of hemp and CBD industry. Years of experience, and I'm excited to speak with her today. Kristin, thanks for coming on the show with me today.
I'm so stoked to be here.
So the website is hempindustrydaily.com. You've done some extensive research and coverage of this farm bill that was passed, and 2018 removed hemp, like separated hemp from cannabis, and so it's not classified the same way that cannabis has been. Is this just overarching Schedule I drug? But there's a lot of opportunities now in hemp because it's more like a plant. It's more of a commodity. So let's talk about this a little bit. How big of a deal is this change?
This is absolutely seismic. This farm bill is the biggest change to American drug policy in about 5 decades, taking at least one kind of cannabis out of the Controlled Substances Act, where it's been since 1971. Will unleash enormous opportunities for entrepreneurs, for investors, and it's good news for consumers who are going to find out a lot more about what this plant can do.
So let's talk about hemp uses. I think conventionally we think of hemp, or a lot of people don't know what it is. It's been largely illegal, criminalized for so many years. But what is the opportunity? And it's a big deal because cannabis, it's very quick to grow a plant. It's not like a tree that takes decades to grow. Cannabis is, very quick. I mean, you turn over plants in a matter of months here. So let's talk about that, if you would.
Okay, the easy shorthand, cannabis includes hemp and marijuana. They are the same plant, Cannabis sativa. That plant, Cannabis sativa, makes a bunch of different molecules called cannabinoids in the flowers. One of those cannabinoids is THC, which you may know very well. It's kind of the intoxicant in marijuana. Another cannabinoid is called CBD. It's cannabidiol. There's lots of therapeutic cannabinoids in the flower. Hemp, by federal law, although this has little basis in science, it's important to note, hemp by federal law is Cannabis sativa with no more than 0.3% THC.
Okay, so uses for hemp. What is the biggest usages we're seeing?
Okay, you've probably heard that George Washington and Thomas Jefferson grew hemp. It was a major global commodity before the Industrial Revolution. It was prized because it has very strong fibers. You mentioned how fast it grows. You can get about 3 or 4 crops in a year. Grows in temperate climates. Grows where tobacco grows well. So folks that have been making a lot of the industrial uses of hemp want to see that come back. But really, right now in the market globally, the value in hemp are these cannabinoids we were talking about before. THC, it has low amounts, but it has a whole bunch of other cool cannabinoids that may have therapeutic benefits. People are putting this CBD, they're putting them in skin creams and coffees. You can get it at your dog groomers. You can get it at your yoga studio. There's all kinds of uses that people are finding for CBD. People are finding anti-inflammatory benefits and a range of health benefits.
Okay, so obviously tons of health benefits as it comes to cannabis. The industry is largely changing. The legalization that happened in Canada, legalization that happened in California, Colorado, tax revenues. Let's talk about this. Do you think that jurisdictions, governments specifically, are going to start getting addicted, to say the least, on these tax revenues that are going to start coming in from this industry that was criminalized for so many years, and this money just circulating in the black market? How important is this going to be for governments down the line here?
It's a huge question. One thing a lot of folks might not know is that before alcohol prohibition, there was a federal alcohol tax, and the government was funded a lot from alcohol taxes. Today, alcohol taxes are state by state, locality by locality, and they don't fund the core functions of government. So you have two, I think, contravening factors in cannabis legalization, both in Canada globally and definitely here in the US, where you have on the one hand, folks saying, okay, people are doing pot, they've always been using the cannabis, it's not that bad, let's make some money on it. And you have on the other side, folks saying, hey, this is a health plant, this is a medicine. So it's hard to kind of raise a ton of money from a medicine. However, in every jurisdiction that so far has legalized marijuana or medical marijuana, again, it's tough to try to tax sick people for their medicine, but every jurisdiction that has done recreational marijuana has found at least that marijuana pays for itself. But I think to your point, to go back to the alcohol taxes we were talking about earlier, it's not going to pave all the roads, open all the schools, make it where you don't have to pay other taxes. I think in jurisdictions, folks, I'm in Colorado, will say, whatever's wrong. Why is this sidewalk not repaired? I thought we did legalize pot for just this reason. So there's going to be a lot of folks with their hands out. It's not a huge pie, but it's a significant pie. In Colorado, recreational marijuana raises about $100 million a year. That's a big number, $100 million a year. But when you think about it, the overall state budget here is 16, 17 billion with the B a year. So it doesn't, make anybody rich.
All right. Well, I'm not overly concerned about making the government rich, but it's a reason to assume that it's going to stick around for a while, because I'm just a believer, once the government starts receiving certain tax revenues, it's not going to go in the opposite direction, which is why I believe we are beyond the tipping point. And another positive is that we have this jobs boom as it comes to this industry, which is by and large a bipartisan thing. It's not really a conservative or liberal issue. The fact that farmers who have been largely conservative can now get into the hemp industry or growing cannabis. I mean, this is going to be a very much a bipartisan shift towards a pro view on this whole entire thing. So any thoughts on that?
Sure. I say, if you want to know why they legalized hemp, we have three words: tobacco state Republicans. Tobacco state Republicans put hemp state pilot projects in the 2014 Farm Bill. It is tobacco state Republicans that led the charge to legalize hemp for all uses in the 2018 Farm Bill. What you're seeing are farmers looking for a hedge against declining commodity prices for things like corn, wheat, soybeans. Don't forget, right now, American farmers are sitting on billions with the B of dollars worth of soybeans. They're not sure they can sell to China because there's a lot of uncertainty in the global ag markets right now. And then you've got these big tobacco states like Kentucky, Tennessee, Virginia, that used to be dominated by tobacco farming. Hemp grows very well there, and that are looking for a replacement crop, frankly, to tobacco. Perfect.
Millennials versus baby boomers. We're seeing a massive change. Financially conservative millennials are out there, right? Who might otherwise vote Republican, but not necessarily agree that, cannabis should be illegal. They're very much pro-cannabis versus maybe baby boomers who are more on the conservative side on the drug issue. But are we seeing a shift in thinking across the spectrum from even millennials to baby boomers?
Absolutely. Baby boomers are the great drug reformers. They were the first generation to broadly use cannabis, even amidst the worst of the drug war propaganda that it was going to drive them all crazy and they were all going to die from it. So even baby boomers that are conservative kind of know people, or if they did not themselves use cannabis as a kid, and they live to tell about it. What's interesting, I think, about the shift to the children of baby boomers, the millennials, is they use cannabis very differently. We're seeing across the board in every market declines in smokable flower. It seems like millennials and the younger generations are not as interested in combusting or smoking with a marijuana cigarette or a joint. They're vaping, eating, using topicals. So we're definitely seeing a huge shift in the market, and more. But it's not unusual to me, I don't think, that younger folks have always supported changes in drug policy more than the older you get, the less interested you are in changing national policy. But I do think we're going to see significant changes, because I don't think millennials, it's not even controversial. You pointed out some conservative baby boomers. I think it's controversial among baby boomers, among people 35 and under. No question. You can hardly find anyone that doesn't think at least medical marijuana use should be legal.
Okay, Kristin. So I like to expand the minds of the people listening to this podcast. I like to expand my own mind. But as an insider, someone who spends a lot of time researching this sector, what are some not conventionally understood use cases for cannabis that you see going forward here that many people are not aware about? They're going to be shocked, like, wow, you can use cannabis for that, or this is going to become a mainstream thing that we haven't really wrapped our minds around yet.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a long time, and almost every day I hear about some new cool use for cannabis I didn't know existed. Cannabis is going to the Olympics in 2022. Hemp components from Canada will be part of the track for the luge and the bobsled track at the 2022 Olympics. So there will be cannabis literally in the framework of the Olympics there. We're also seeing a huge boom in kind of those technical industrial uses for hemp fibers, the bast fibers. Porsche just in the last week or so announced they have a new racing model using a hemp body to replace a fiberglass body. This is not street legal. These are racing models right now, but we'll see if that goes to the market. There is CBD, like I said, in coffee. There's CBD popping up in skin creams. There's CBD at hotel bars, in the mini bar. Almost every day you could think of some new place where you didn't think that you'd ever see cannabis, like a 7-Eleven, and then turns out you are seeing cannabis there now.
Yeah, it's still very early stage. I mean, the dispensaries that I've seen, some of them are still very early stage. You walk in, some of them are not labeled very well, and it's still like this. It almost feels like this a shady business still, because it's early. They haven't really had a lot of time to figure it out on how it's going to be a mainstream thing. And the dispensaries that I've went to in California, for instance, you walk in, I mean, you have to go behind another door to access the product. It's one person at a time. It still seems like there's still a lot of things to figure out with it. So having said that, with how fast things have gone, how fast things are progressing, where do you expect things to be in maybe 5 to 10 years from now?
I think mainstream consumer packaged goods sellers will be in this game. You brought up a very simmering conflict, I think, within the cannabis industry, which is folks that were in this business for decades when it was illegal, understandably, know this plant, know how to produce this plant, maybe they want to sell it, but don't have any retailing experience or mainstream marketing experience. And so you're seeing this kind of clash where sometimes it feels very down market or very scuzzy. I think governments have a lot to blame for that, because you see over and over again zoning restrictions and all these kind of limits where you see the only place you could put a cannabis business is basically, frankly, not a great neighborhood. You see them next to like strip clubs, where you see adult bookstores, where you see gun shops and pawn stores. I think we'll see that change. I think this is why the Farm Bill is so interesting. Now that it's out of the Controlled Substances Act, every big business, from Coca-Cola, the Targets, the Walmarts, the Costcos, they see this cannabis trend. Of course, they see the money. They want to be a part of it, but they're not going to jump in if it endangers the rest of their business. If the Farm Bill, by taking part of cannabis out of the Controlled Substances Act, says, okay, big retailer, big Costco, you're not going to endanger your overall business strategy by offering a cannabis product here, as long as it comes from this kind of cannabis. Is this opening the door to a future where we'll see weed in Walmart? It's far too soon to say that, but I do think we're going to see bigger and bigger players enter the game. What that means for existing cannabis entrepreneurs, that'll be an open question.
Kristin, I want to thank you so much for coming on Crush the Street and sharing your years of knowledge with us regarding this industry. It seems like so much of the legalization and the progress we're seeing right now in 2018 and 2017, 2019 now, I mean, has to do with the years of slow progress that people put in that is now seemingly happening all at once. The news of Coca-Cola, the canopy growth stories, and the investments that are being made, the on-ramps, and all that we're seeing now is a result of so many tireless years of people trying to push this thing along, which we're now seeing happen in a very large way. So it's very exciting. And thank you so much for coming on the show. If people want to learn more about what you do, please let them know where they can go and what they can expect to find.
Okay, go to hempindustrydaily.com. We're a sister publication of Marijuana Business Daily. We have lots of stories about what's going on in the industry, free webinars, free reports. Hempindustrydaily.com. Find out all you wanted to know and more about getting into the hemp business or where it stands right now.
Kristin Nichols, everyone, thank you so much for coming on Crush the Street with me.
Thanks for having me.